home gets older, things will start to age. Sometimes it's something really obvious and it's a quick fix. For instance, light bulbs. If you have a light bulb go out, you're going to have a general idea that light bulb needs to be replaced, and you should have a general idea on how to go about replacing it. Other times it's things that are less obvious, things like the cartridge in your shower. Now, our shower is a Delta monitor, and it uses a cartridge, which for those who aren't familiar, a cartridge is basically what controls the flow of water. So when you have a shower, the handle, when you move it up and down, that's controlling the cartridge, which lets the water in, determines the mix of hot to cold, all of that. So it's a pretty crucial part. As they start to get older, they'll start to leak. Sometimes it may just be something where you need to replace an O-ring or something like that. Other times, you'll just want to go ahead and replace the whole piece. So in my case, our home is about 10 years old, so I decided to go ahead and replace the entire cartridge on it. It's a pretty simple process when you know what you're doing. When it's your first time in it, it can be a little bit tricky. And in my case, it took a little bit longer because I ran into a couple different roadblocks that hopefully you won't usually run into, but depending on the age of your home, it's an entirely possible thing that you're going to run into this sort of thing too. And so it may help to know what I figured out as I was going through it. So let me go ahead, I'll walk you through what I did and where I could have done better, and we'll go from there. So come on, let's go check it out. Now, if your home builder was really nice to you, they may have put a water shutoff valve somewhere near your hot water heater. You know, somewhere in the house, maybe your basement, garage, one of those areas where it's super accessible and really easy to find. Unfortunately, my home builder, not that nice. Now, if your home builder didn't put one in the house itself, then usually it's going to be street side, which for the majority of people, that's not going to be a terribly big deal because you're just walking out to the curb directly in front of your house. In my case, however, they decided to put our home on a flag lot. Well, I mean, that's how it was developed, which means that in order to get to the water meter, I have to walk all the way out to the street, which involves walking all the way out to my driveway, which ultimately is a fairly long walk. But eventually, you wind up getting there. Eventually. Now this would be the curbside water meter. If we open this up, down here you will see, here is the home side meter shutoff. So there's also one in here for the city if they want to shut your water off. It's a completely different one that you have no control over. So the first step is obviously going to be shut off the water, whether it be at the fixture or in my case at the street. That's going to be the first thing before you do any plumbing work. Now, as you can see here, I moved straight from turning the water off to removing the escutcheon plate off of the fixture. Now, it's pretty simple to take off here. You just got the 2 screws, usually, depending on your fixture. In my case, it was 2 screws. Take the top one out, and then you go and take the bottom one out. Overall, simple process. And then once you've got that off, you wind up going and just pulling the piece off. Now, you might stop at this point and wonder to yourself, why did you leave the handle on, Andrew? And in fact, I don't know why. But as you can see here, I come to the conclusion that, oh yeah, that set screw needs to come out. So I went ahead and tried taking it out. This, as it turns out, would be the first obstacle that I'd run into doing this project. I went and I found myself my set of hex keys, found the one that fit in there, and then started trying to torque on it. This presented 2 problems. Number 1, after 10 years, with water and all of that, it got itself pretty stuck. And number 2, by me cranking on it with all the torque that I could possibly muster, I wound up stripping the head on it. This was kind of a problem because I really wanted that handle off, but I had to walk away from the project on this particular day. I came back to it a week later with a recommendation from one of my friends who's a contractor. He told me to try some left-handed drill bits. Basically, they're corkscrewed in the opposite direction of your standard drill bits,
put it in reverse. The thought being it should catch the head of it eventually and pull the screw loose with the torque. I went ahead and gave it a shot. As it turned out, it never actually broke loose. Eventually, though, I damaged enough of it that the handle came off.
Holy friggin' hallelujah.
So at this point in time, I took off the outer pieces and got to the next obstacle in my little adventure on this cartridge replacement, and that would be the brass bonnet nut hiding underneath the exterior sleeve. As you can see here, this brass bonnet nut, it is completely round, meaning there's not an easy way to grip it. Sure, you can try it with your pliers, but there's not a whole lot to hold on to, and my pliers were just barely big enough to get on there. I then went ahead and gave it a shot with my firm grip gloves and just good old-fashioned elbow grease. Obviously, that's not working either. I tried taking the escutcheon plate off just in case maybe that was for some reason making it worse. Still, no luck. No matter how much I tried channeling my inner He-Man, I could not make that brass ring budge. Somewhere along the line, I remember them saying in the Fantastic Four that heating up metal makes it actually expand, so I thought maybe that would help. So I hit it with my wife's hairdryer and gave it another shot. Still nothing. At this point, I wound up going to what wound up being one of the most questionable YouTube hacks I've ever seen that actually worked. There was a guy who posted a video talking about how in order to get these brass rings off, you just needed to carve yourself a little bit of a niche in there that you could stick a screwdriver head in, then tap it with a mallet, and it should spin right off. Not gonna lie, I didn't think this would work. And yet, there it goes. With the bonnet nut removed, next step was just go ahead and pull out the cartridge itself. It was stuck in there after 10 years, but good old-fashioned elbow grease and a good solid grip, and it pulled right out.
Victory.
So I took out the new cartridge, and then I lubed up the O-rings on it with a little bit of silicone grease I picked up at my local home center. Now these should fit in a particular way. First off, you're going to make sure that the hot is always going to the side where your hot handle turns. So there's usually an H that'll mark it very clearly on one side or the other. And then when you push it in, it should fit snugly. There should be a little cutout that the cartridge fits into perfectly. Once the cartridge is in, you're going to go ahead, take the brass bonnet nut and get that stuck back on there. So should just be snugged down as tight as you can with your hand. Eventually you want to be able to take it off again, but you want it tight enough to make a seal. Now in the drama unfolding regarding taking off the handle, I did actually basically destroy the handle from further use. Good news is I'd planned for this and actually bought a new trim kit for it that fits perfectly. And they're pretty easy to find. I picked mine up on Amazon as a warehouse deal because I wasn't too concerned about it being reopened. But went ahead, put on the new sleeve over the cartridge. Once the sleeve was on there, put the new escutcheon plate with the new screws. Got to tighten those down real quick. And then from there, I put on the new handle, which, like the previous one, just has a little set screw in it. You go ahead, you line it up with your cartridge, make sure that it closes to the off position, and just take that hex key, tighten it down, and you should be good to go. And ultimately, the successful water test once the water was back on. No water was coming out where it shouldn't be, and after it's had the time to clear out the water that was in its system, it does not drip any longer, which is a great sign when you want to be keeping an eye on your water bill.